My name is Liz Igra. I am a child Holocaust survivor and president of the Central Valley Holocaust Educators Network. Sometimes those two functions melds together. Today, I am joined with my community to remember the Holocaust. Yom Hashoah, remember, never forget. I will light my candle alone. I miss the atmosphere, the solemnity of doing it with others. But it's important. It's a symbol that we need to keep. Never forget. I keep repeating, you can't remember what you don't know, and what we know is important. And every story that a survivor tells adds a small piece to this history. It's not easy. We all feel the strain of sharing these stories, but the results, the reason for which we tell them is more important than our pain. That's why I'm here today. I found that in this time of coronavirus, I have been alone much of the time, most of the time. And one of the things that has kept me sane is looking at old photos. Photos of my family always make me happy, particularly my grandchildren. But photos of my parents, can you show it, are a different story. In this photo, they're just barely over 30 years old. And at that age, they faced challenges that are hard to imagine. My father particularly paid a high price. One of the things I do when looking through these photos, I'm tempted to connect them to current affairs. There's so many ways that we can do that. My father's life and death is one of those places. He was a physician, and like physicians in our times, he risked his life. He stayed in the ghetto to provide work permits because under the law, that particular law at that particular time, people who worked wouldn't be deported. He took the risk and paid the price. He was deported to Belzec, where in a gas chamber he took his last breath. That is also where my grandparents perished. And I can see a connection between their death and our times. Being in their 50s, they were in greater danger than younger people. And they too perished in Belzec. When I look at my mother, I think of her as a woman with great courage, zest, charm, and humor. And all that we lived through together. She made sure that I didn't starve or freeze to death. We had no shelter, no food, and she helped me survive. Another memory that comes to me that relates also to the virus that we are subjected to now, is when I was hiding in a hospital. I was probably 8 years old, and I caught a scarlet fever. And in those days, when you had scarlet fever, you were relegated to the to isolation ward. My mother could not come and visit me. The only way I could see her is when she was able to come to the window. I see her just the way I look at people now trying to reach ill people across the window pane. Her condition was different. She was risking her life. I was fighting a virus, but she was fighting the Nazis. Every time she came, she risked her life. She could have been caught, but she did it. Those are just a couple of little stories from a much, much bigger story. But I hope that you get a sense of the strength of people who inhabited that time. Thinking about them pushes me to do what I must do. I must teach about the Holocaust. There is another source of my strength and determination. It is a portrait that has lived with me for many years. It is a portrait of a survivor. His name was Maurice Koschmann. My son-in-law, who's an artist, painted it many years ago. When you look at this picture, the first thing that strikes you is the number on his arm, 103165. And if I look into his eyes and his general demeanor, I feel strength, courage, determination, maybe, even a hint of amusement at beating his enemy. We can access the Holocaust through many paths, and each one of us might choose a different path. Art is one of the ways. Films, books, and just conversation can open the doors to this history. And not comparing, but seeing the Holocaust in all its many ways that it capitalized on human weakness and strength, individual, community, national, and international connections. We can respond to the world we live in. I think with this candle came photos and a piece of paper. And in this paper, it says, let us on this Yom Hashoah be vigilant and stand up against all forms of bigotry and hatred until humankind has lost its capacity for cruelty. This will not happen magically. And the virus that was the underpinning of the Holocaust is well and living amongst us. And we are the only ones, you and I, can resist the virus and find the vaccine to it by responding to anti-Semitism forcefully and immediately. I look forward to a better time, both in our world and in the whole world, and wish you all the best as on this special Yom Hashoah, we light our candles. Thank you for